Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new and another episode of Be My Guest. I'm not gonna lie, it feels a little strange to sit here in front of the camera and talk again, and it's been a while. It's been probably a good 4 months since the last time I sat down here and did one of these, and a lot has changed in that time. In terms of my life, in terms of my career, in terms of what I do for a living, and I have a job now that I didn't ever think would be a possibility. I have a position that I never imagined. I never imagined I'd be doing myself or see myself in that role. So to be doing it now it's quite interesting. It's quite fascinating in a lot of ways. And as someone who talks openly about mental health and my personal experiences with mental health and these sorts of things, it goes directly into this position now that I'm in. I'm working in the field of mental health and psychiatry. I'm working at a hospital, and it's very cool. It's very interesting. It's been very fascinating. I'll tell some stories. I'll tell some of my new experiences that I've had. But a while, I'll start with this. A while back, I had a piece of paper and I set some goals for myself, and some of those goals were along the lines of maybe getting back in shape, maybe losing some weight, maybe whatever the goals were. But one of them was it said specifically in writing, and I have the paper here. Maybe I'll pull it out. Actually, I do have the paper here. It said, "I want to help people." Let's see what it says. I think this is the paper, anyways. I keep stuff just laying around. I'm pretty sure this is the paper of my goal. So we're gonna see what it says, and then if you believe in manifestation, that sort of thing, it's I think it's quite interesting, anyways. So let's see what it says. So goals I have completed by 2026. Um, there's a lot about YouTube. So one of the goals that I had for myself was that I had resigned from my previous job, um, as well as starting streaming on YouTube and that sort of thing. Um, as well as so that was one of the goals was I resigned from my previous job, which I did. That came true. And in another one of my writings, it said I will be someone who helps people in mental health and helps their mentality and helps them achieve their own goals and kind of this sort of thing. And what I do now is I'm a peer support worker in a first episode psychosis program. So prevention for early psychosis program. And it's so fascinating, and it's almost surreal in a lot of ways that I went from just being maybe a mediocre factory worker, someone who was just on the night shift grind in the shipping department, kind of just working the 9 to 5, doing the factory work. It wasn't something that was fulfilling to me. It wasn't something I had a lot of joy in, but that's where I found myself. And I set these goals, and I had these life experiences, and I was in this program. I was in this PEP program, this first episode psychosis program myself, having gone through psychosis. And I started volunteering, and I really loved this peer support group. I really loved talking about psychosis. I loved talking about mental health experiences, kind of where your mind takes you and kind of the hallucinations, the delusions, the spiritual aspects of it, everything that goes into kind of these altered states of consciousness. And eventually I started volunteering at this peer support group so I could go in, I could share my story. Not only could I share my own story, I could hear other people's stories so I could kind of find solace in hearing other people talk about similar things. Kind of so I wasn't so much alone, because since this initial episode that happened to myself when I was 18 years old, there weren't a ton of people that I had come across in my life that had gone through psychosis. I was kind of the only one. I was kind of a lone soldier. But I would always go to the internet and try to read other people's stories and find comfort in knowing that there are other people out there with similar stories and kind of similar life experiences. So I really loved hearing about the the kind of the stories and the things that the mind does to you in this state. And through volunteering and through luck and through some things going right for me, a position of a peer support worker came up in this program that I was in, and I got hired. So now, through, I guess, love, through fascination, through volunteering, through being involved, I find myself in this role where I now get to help other people. I get to use my life experience. I get to use my stories and connect with others and kind of find common ground with a lot of people based on something very negative or something tragic that happened to me a couple times in my life. Would I call it negative or tragic? Maybe those aren't the words I would actually use if I use them. I think psychosis is one of the best things that ever happened to me. I think it's one of the coolest things that ever happened. And for a lot of reasons, it made me reflect so much as a person. It made me look at who I was previously to that episode, some of the things I was doing, the behaviors, the way I lived my life, the way I treated people. And based on that reflection, I was able to come out of that experience, a very traumatic, a very in-depth experience, kind of a more evolved, better version of myself. So I think it's a blessing in disguise that I was able to actually go through psychosis, and now I'm able to be a part of this team and this program and help other people go through their own journeys and kind of get their lives headed to where they want it to be. So I'll talk about, so that's kind of a little update or synopsis of kind of the last 4 months I've been working. I've been doing this job, and I've been wanting to get back here. I've been wanting to get back to this spot and talk about some of this stuff. Um, it's interesting with the stories. Obviously, I have to be careful. I have to pick and choose the stuff I say due to confidentiality. But that's not a problem. But I'll talk about my initial kind of experiences, kind of going back to the psych ward and being on the other side of the glass and being someone with a badge and that access to this place that I once felt trapped in, that I was once not able to leave. I was once forced to be there against my will and had some of these crazy kind of out of mind, out of body delusions, hallucinations, paranoia. So to walk back into a place now working there, it was very surreal in a lot of ways. And I was excited. I was very excited to go back to the psych ward floor for the first time. Um, as a staff member, as someone working there, I didn't know what kind of emotions would come up. I didn't know what kind of feelings would kind of arise as I go back. But there was nothing out of the ordinary. It was, I mean, it was strange. It's strange to once kind of feel like a prisoner somewhere and then have access to the keys to the kingdom and kind of go back in and be on the other side. But the being in the nursing station, that was so strange. It was so surreal. It was like, yes, I'm in here. Yes, I'm in the nursing station, but I I feel more strongly as if I'm one of them. Not to make a them versus us or a you versus me type of situation, but I resonated more with the people on the outside of the class. I had more emotional drive and emotional connection and ties to being on the inpatient side of things. So to be on the inside, be on the inside of the glass and have access, it was very strange. And walking through those halls and seeing the restraints on the beds again, seeing people restrained and seeing the restraints everywhere, that brought some surreal and visceral kind of emotions back. Um, and even I wanted to go back to PICU. That psychiatric intensive care unit. That was a place where I spent a lot of time. Spent some weeks, different episodes up in the high intensive care unit. So I wanted to go back there as well, and going back to a place where I had completely lost myself. Going back to a place where you completely lost your mind, completely lost control of your mind, control of your body, control of your actions, your emotions, had very severe episodes of anger and sadness and delusions and paranoia and hallucinations and these sorts of behaviors, to then walk back in there as a healthy person, but not only as a healthy person, I'm walking back in there as a staff, and I'm walking back in there as someone who is there to help someone and help others in those similar situations that I was in. So it was very strange. It was very cool at the same time. It's very cool that I was able to do that and that I'm able to come and share these experiences. And another cool thing that happens, it took a while, but I also went back to the kids floor, the kids unit, which I spent time on as well, the kids psych floor. So going back to the kids psych floor and seeing that area and knowing the things I did and some of my actions, and it's like you have this little chuckle inside and you go, yeah, I was quite the character when I was here. But to now to be there, being professional and being a staff member, it's I don't know, it was cool. So that's kind of my life has been is there's been a ton of positives in my life. Getting this career and getting this job was obviously one of them, and I want to now use this opportunity. Although I'm young, although I'm new to this job still, I'm only about 4 months in. I want to build off of kind of what's already going on in the world of peer support and in the world of using lived experience to help others. I want to be someone who is a voice of lived experience. I want to be someone who is at the forefront of um, kind of that mission to normalize these experiences and to show that as someone with a mental illness or as someone with a mental health problem, that doesn't mean that I'm any less capable. That doesn't mean that that defines me in any way, or that doesn't mean that that will stop me from kind of achieving or conquering anything I want in this world. So I want to be someone who's forefront and a forerunner for that. And how I'm going to do that is using this platform. It's kind of talking about my experiences, not only my own past life experiences that I have kind of a plethora of my 7 8 years kind of in and out of the psych ward, different medications. My life experiences that way, but now on the other side as well as a staff member and someone who now works in the field of mental health. So I want to be able to use the experience, my personal experience, and then my professional experience as well, and kind of culminate them together and just advance the conversation, advance um, the process for others, kind of going through the similar stuff. So that's kind of the last little 4 months, and I don't know why I've been so hesitant to kind of get back on here and talk about some of this stuff. Maybe it was because I didn't know what stories I could tell. I didn't know what things I could share. I mean, I can make up all the excuses in the world, but there's going to be stories for me to share. There's going to be things for me to talk about, and it ultimately just comes down to me sitting here and talking and doing them. So maybe I'll hit on some of the positives that I've had so far in this job, and maybe I'll hit on some of the negatives I've had in the job so far, and maybe what a day to day looks like in my role. So a day to day on a good day where I'm involved and I'm busy with whatever. I start out and I'll go to inpatient with one of our psych docs, and we go and we do the rounds and have conversations with people, kind of just see where they're at that day. They're obviously patients on the unit. And then from there, it depends on the day. Some days there'll be a group. Some days I run a peer support group. So obviously we come and we discuss different topics, share our stories, share our life experiences. And then some days I do one-on-one stuff. So maybe that's taking an inpatient off the unit, getting some fresh air, and going for a walk outside, playing some chess, playing some cards, whatever it is, going for a walk to the garden, something like that. So that's kind of what a day to day would look like for me. And some of the positives so far in this role would be, I guess it would be that I get to be a role model, I get to be an example, I get to be a leader. I've always pictured myself as a leader, I've always pictured myself as a role model to other people in life, and now I get to be that example. But with that comes, obviously, it comes responsibility, but it also comes with this, and this is something I've kind of struggled with during this process so far and having this job so far, is that like this example that I'm this perfect example of what someone should be after going through psychosis or having mental health struggles, because I was hired for this position and I'm the only peer support worker in our program, that I'm the perfect model. I'm the perfect person, that I don't have any flaws, that I don't deal with anything myself. And that's been tough. That's been something I've kind of been working through, because obviously that's not the case. We all have our struggles. We all have our difficulties. No matter where you are in life, no matter what ladder of the rung you get to, what rung of the ladder you get to. So just kind of reflecting and recognizing that it's okay that I'm not going to be perfect. Maybe at times I'm not going to be the perfect example. At times I'm going to have my own struggles, my own health struggles, my own personal battles, whatever that is, and that's kind of okay. I can work through that. There's people around me. I have a team. I have a support system around me to work through that. And then some of the positives so far would be, I think I think the some of the one-on-one connections I've had with people and kind of been able to make, um, to be someone who obviously knows how difficult it can be to be on a psych ward floor, to be trapped or to be stuck on a unit against your will, and be held there for weeks or months. So for me to be able to be someone that I can go and give them some relief, and I can take them outside, I can take them to Tim Hortons, I can go get some fresh air with them, and maybe make their stay or their process and their journey a little easier. I would say that's something I really enjoy. It's a very positive kind of experience, feeling, as well as, um, another positive would be that I was able to, in a lot of ways, um, make this job a reality for myself. I set the goals. I started volunteering. I became active. Um, I put my best foot forward, and I was successful in kind of getting this job. So, that's something I'm kind of proud of as well. Some of the negatives about the job, I would say I talked about one already. Is it's kind of like I will picture I'm this perfect image of what a person can be, or what someone after going through should be. And maybe another negative might be, at times I think because it's such a new position, I'm the first peer support worker in this program. I lack guidance, so at times kind of I don't exactly know where I should be or what I should be doing, but I know I should be doing something, and I don't want to be doing something wrong. So it's kind of this feeling of like I don't want to be doing something wrong. It kind of like eats at me. Um, but I guess just in time, I'll get more comfortable. I'll get more comfortable with what I'm doing, with inserting myself in certain places, and or voicing my opinion, voicing my ideas, and kind of elaborating on where I see holes, or where I see changes could be made in better ways. So that's something that will come in time. But yeah, it's been a really cool last 4 months in a lot of ways. It's been a lot last 4 months a bit tough in some ways, but I think it's cool, and I think I'm going to get back to coming and sitting down here maybe, two, 3 times, 2, 3 times a week, and doing this, and kind of just giving updates and talking about whatever comes up, answering questions. And over my career as a peer support worker, um, and kind of in my career in mental health, I'll be able to kind of just grow this channel, grow conversation about psychosis, grow the conversation about mental health and bipolar disorder, depression, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, these types of things, medications, and kind of how I navigated my way through the psychiatric system, and how I do currently to this day. So that's kind of my goal and my plan with this. And what got me back at the desk today? Let's talk about. some of the guys in my program, they started up a podcast themselves, and I was watching the episode. I said to myself, you know what? I used to do this myself. I used to sit here and make videos. I used to love making the content and setting up the camera and setting up the mic and making sure everything was cool and looked good. Why not me? Why am I not doing it? They're doing it. They're getting out there. They're making the content. They're having impactful conversations. They're sharing their story. I should be doing the same. So they kind of inspired me. A couple guys from the program, and that's why I'm going to be back on the camera doing these updates and maybe not so long. I mean, last time I was doing this, I was a little manic, hypomanic, and I can talk quite a bit when I'm in that state. So we're not in that, and I don't think we'll be going as long in these videos. We'll keep them a little short, a little precise, short and sweet, but they're coming back. I've got some cool things coming ahead that I'm excited for, that I'm excited to share. A couple cool podcasts, couple cool um, presentations. I'm doing one upcoming, so I'll share those maybe on my channel, and yeah, there'll be updates to come. So that's kind of where my life has been. I don't know. I got a job that I didn't know existed, and now here we are. So um, leave a like, leave a comment, any questions you have, and we're gonna be back on the channel. So it's good to see you guys.